Welcome, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe wholeheartedly that there is an ongoing effort to silence, stamp out, and otherwise control the notion of a free-thinking society. I further believe that this effort is tied directly to the desire to squelch and squash Christianity. If citizens of a nation subscribe to the idea that God is their source of life and liberty, then the government lacks the level of power and control that the corrupt among them crave. There are many arms of this which we can observe today, and many tools of the trade, so to speak, which are used to turn our dependence away from God and onto government. I'm Stace Massengill, and this is the Kingdom Hero Show. Our focus as Christians ought not be on winning arguments, but on winning souls. There are those who are attempting to turn people's reliance away from God and back onto government. We need to view the actions of our government and its leaders through a very specific lens. Does what they do benefit we the people, or does it benefit them? Our true enemy will use every tool at his disposal to cause division, especially within the church. It doesn't matter if the chasm is caused by differing opinions within the church body, or if it's caused by differing political views, or even something as ridiculously petty as skin color. Love is the key to mending every rift. One consistent strategy of the establishment has been to demonize free-thinking people as being haters. They call us lots of stuff like racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, etc. So-called Asian hate is the latest misnomer for the recognition that COVID-19 is a virus that originated in China, as well as viewing the Chinese government as the oppressors they are. And the truth is, it's not the Chinese people so many have issue with, but rather it is the tyrannical Chinese government. That reality, though, gets twisted and skewed, however, by the media. But here's a fact they don't want to face. Weaving your narrative by twisting truth into lies is a sign of weakness, and it shows that you have no valid argument upon which to stand. Cancel culture and name-calling have always been tools of the establishment to shame and silence their free-thinking opponents. These are the tools of liars who know they can't prove themselves right. Instead, they attack the opposition. This is the same thing the Pharisees did when attacking Jesus. They got people to slander him. They made false accusations, called him a heretic, and worse. But the truth is that they feared Jesus. They were afraid of his influence on the people. The more the people trusted and believed in the words of Jesus, the less power and influence the Pharisees themselves could maintain over them. He was a threat to them, just as Christianity is a threat to those who wish to control our lives today. And that's why there is such an attack on our faith. It threatens the power of the establishment. Another tool of the establishment when trying to deceive the populace is misdirection. They will make you think that they're doing one thing that you don't like, getting all your attention focused on that, when something much worse is their actual intent. Now, what do I mean? Well, for example, have you noticed that even some of the leftist media propaganda complex is starting to challenge Biden now? It's just a little bit. These same people who were falling all over themselves, covering for his lack of mental presence, are now, some of them, calling him on the carpet for his border policy and other things. Why? Well, they're following a script. See, getting a lame duck in the White House was their game plan from the start, so they could easily ditch him sometime afterwards for a much more radical president, a.k.a. Kamala Harris. As much as we know Biden didn't really beat Trump, there's no way she could have. And I'll elaborate on that in just a moment. Don't make any mistake here. They will use Biden for as long as they can, as much as they can. However, he's not the most radical, as far left as he is. He's not the most radical between the two of them. Now, let me elaborate a little bit on what I'm talking about. As it was, their election fraud almost didn't work out. The Dominion voting machines, which were set up to change a certain percentage of Trump votes to Biden, it wasn't enough to overcome the literal landslide of votes for Trump. So they had to take extreme measures to ensure Biden's vote count was high enough to win. Now, let me interject here. Everything I'm about to say has been documented. Contrary to what the establishment wants us to believe, the evidence is there, and lots of it. There are hundreds, literally hundreds, of signed affidavits attesting these things to be true. And I've even seen those videos myself of some of the stuff happening. I saw the testimony even of one of the truck drivers involved with transporting huge pallets full of signed ballots to other states. Now, this is what people are being silenced and kicked off of Twitter and Facebook for saying. And it's all absolutely true. Specifically, poll workers ran batches of Biden ballots through the machines over and over again after the poll watchers were sent home for the night. You remember that when they told us they were going to stop counting for the night? That's never happened before. Why would they do that, you think? And you see, that's why we saw such massive spikes in Biden votes in the early hours of the next morning. That plus the truckloads of Biden ballots that were transported from one city to another overnight. This was also why there were more votes than registered voters in those cities. Now, remember, this was all necessary to put Biden in the White House. Imagine the difficulty they would have had putting someone like Kamala directly in the Oval Office. I mean, they didn't even manage to get her the DNC nomination, but she's who they wanted to use to bring about their radical agenda. And make no mistake, once they're done using Biden, or whatever happens to him next, at some point they're going to move her in. That's why they attached her as his VP pick. We all know he didn't pick her himself. And make no mistake, a very radical agenda is what the establishment has in mind. And there are reasons for that. But Biden was the pawn they used to get their real choice into a position to implement some radical changes that are yet to come, possibly. This tool of misdirection or deception is certainly not new either. It has been the method of choice for Satan's evil forces for as long as he's been scheming against God and God's people. Still another tool, though, being utilized today is the rewriting or reinterpreting of our nation's history and laws. This is literally taking truth and twisting it into outright lies. And yes, Satan has been mastering that little trick since the Garden of Eden. Today we see it evidenced by the idea that government is boss and we, mere peons, are to simply do as we're told without question. And that ruffles the feathers of the traditional red-blooded American, and with good reason. It goes completely against what the framers of our Constitution stated. What is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people has instead become a bunch of power-hungry establishment elites trying to rule over us rather than represent us. These folks see themselves as more intelligent than us and more qualified to tell us how we should live our lives. Rather than help, they interfere. Rather than uphold the Constitution, they continually attempt to subvert it. And rather than serve us as they ought, they try more and more to force us into submission. Let me take a moment to tell you about Great Commission Ministries. Beginning in 2011, this ministry was a calling I had to spread the good news of Christ. Not only that, it was designed to give hope and encouragement to those who need it most. Over the years, GCM has utilized a video web series called The GC, then moved into publishing blogs, and now these podcasts. The goal is still the same, to spread the gospel and provide encouragement, while also shining a biblical light on current events. Would you consider supporting this ministry? You can easily and securely do so through PayPal by going to kingdomheroblog.com/support. That's kingdomheroblog.com/support. Any gift is appreciated and will help GCM to continue being a beacon of truth, salt, and light. Go right now to kingdomheroblog.com/support. That's kingdomheroblog.com/support. Thank you, and God bless you. If ever there was a blatant example of government overreach, we saw it in the past year. They overhyped the COVID-19 scare in order to instill fear and use it to infringe on our freedoms. To this day, despite the theatrical claims of the virus being a deadly threat, the numbers continue to show that those who test positive still have a 99.9% survival rate. Have people died? Yes. Is it a threat? Well, mainly to those in certain high-risk categories, like the elderly. But the same could be said for several much more deadly viruses and diseases where the death rate is much higher. And yet, never in our history has a virus with such a high survival rate been considered as deadly as we're told COVID is. And this deception was used to excuse the overstepping governmental shutdowns and restrictions we have witnessed in the last year plus. Worse still, many of the deaths attributed to COVID-19 were not actually caused by it. Hospitals and other medical facilities were incentivized to put down COVID as the cause of death because of government funding. In other words, they were paid to lie. Now, I don't say this flippantly either. I didn't just hear that or just happen to read it somewhere. I knew of several cases of it happening locally, and then it happened in my own family. After my father's long struggle with dementia and failing health, he passed away late last year. To my mother's dismay, she soon discovered the cause of death on his death certificate was listed as COVID-19. We all knew that was a blatant lie. But it did not surprise me because it had already happened to so many others. Now our government is maintaining the lie. They scare people into wearing masks and social distancing, then they use that same fear to get us to take vaccines, and the motivation for many to get vaccinated is to try and get back to some sense of normalcy. I get that. We were led to believe that getting vaccinations would be the key to ending all the restrictions, right? Those restrictions, by the way, were initially supposed to be temporary, just a couple of weeks to flatten the curve. Remember that? More than a year later, the restrictions remain. And worse yet, now we're told that even after getting the vaccine, we'll still have to wear masks and socially distance and all that. Well then, what exactly is the point of the vaccine? Again, make no mistake, there is a method to their madness. Mainly, it's to further establish the mentality that government is in control and they rule over us. This further embeds the false notion that they know best for us. They know what's best for us. Yeah, sure. And that deepens the people's sense of dependence upon government. And if you're dependent upon them, well, they really do own you. You are their slaves. If you haven't noticed the attempts to take away more and more of our freedoms, well, you really haven't been paying attention. From religious liberties to parental rights to crucial rights recognized by the Constitution, like freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. One liberty after another is being threatened. Why? Because the less opportunity you have to live freely, the more you must rely on the government. See how that works? Lost your job due to the overstepping restrictions enacted due to overhyped COVID scare? Yeah, well, the government has programs for that. Just put your trust in the government. We've got you. They created this crisis, but they want you to believe that they have all the answers. And just like that, yep, they've got you all right. They've got you hooked, stuck, dependent, and enslaved. But listen closely. So this is exactly what happened to me. I lost my job this past year despite the best efforts of my employers. The government's overreaching imposition of restrictions due to the overhyped COVID scare forced my company out of business. And for months and months since, with those job-killing restrictions still in place, all I had to rely on was unemployment benefits. That made me dependent upon the government. However, I am not fully dependent upon them. They are not my only source because I don't place my trust in them. Rather, my trust is in a God who has always taken care of me and has never let me down. Though I can't really explain how, I can actually say that God has mercifully supplied my needs better during this time of unemployment than ever before. My trust in him is well placed because he literally never disappoints. I know that he will soon lead me to the right job situation, and I have no worries about that at all. I'm confident in my God because he has proven himself time and time again. Hey, let me ask you a question. Do you like this podcast? You can share it with others, but you can also send me a message, and you have a couple of choices in how to do that. First, if you go to kingdomheroblog.com/contact, that's kingdomheroblog.com/contact, you can submit a text message to me using the form on the contact page. Second, if you'd like to leave me a voice message, you can do that by going to anchor.fm/kingdomhero/message and just follow the instructions there. Again, that's anchor.fm/kingdomhero/message. Now, either way you do it, I'd love to hear from you. And you may even hear your comment, question, or message on a future podcast. So what are you waiting for? Go to kingdomheroblog.com/contact to text me, or anchor.fm/kingdomhero/message to leave a voice message and send me your feedback today. Probably one of the most successful tools that has been used against us is the tried and true concept of divide and conquer. If we stand united as citizens, we have numbers on our side. The establishment then has continually tried to divide us through class warfare and accusations of racism, homophobia, transphobia, and other bias. These are all tools of division, and we need to start recognizing them as such. If they can get us all separated into different groups and subcategories, training our focus on all the things that make us different from one another, then they'll keep us from seeing all the ways that we are truly alike. They equate disagreement with hate, accusing we in the Christian category of hating people in the LGBT category, for example. None of this stuff is about equality, as they claim. It's about causing divisions. Racism has probably been one of the most popular tools the establishment has used to divide us, and it is ironically one of the most ridiculous concepts mankind has ever given credence to. We are all various shades of brown, okay? It's true. And members of a single race, human. Skin color is frankly irrelevant. To think otherwise is simply ignorant. How any educated or reasonably intelligent person could cling to racist notions today is beyond comprehension. And yet, the establishment and those in the leftist media propaganda complex have even recently been diligently seeking to confuse and divide people with the lie that Georgia's voter ID bill was somehow racist. It is nothing of the kind. And anyone who has actually read the bill knows that. They know that claim is not true. Frankly, those people making the claim know it's not true. We've already discussed the gross amount of voter fraud that has taken place, and the need for registered voters to have an ID is painfully obvious. Again, this has nothing at all to do with racism. It's about dividing people as a means of control. That's what they're trying to do. The tools of the enemy are many, and they all serve a singular purpose: to lead us away from truth and away from God. Now more than ever, we need to hold firmly to our faith and to our trust in the Lord. There is much evil in the world. Satan schemes and plots daily against the church. He seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. He uses fear and countless other tools to gain a foothold in our lives. He wants to control us, ruin us, and ultimately to drag us down to hell with him in the end. But we have the upper hand. See, we have Jesus. We don't have to fear. We don't need to be worried about our lives because God is so much bigger than all the problems of this world. And God actually loves us. So hear what I'm saying. If you, like so many others, have lately, have been struggling, if you've been afraid of what's next, if you found yourself worried and fearful regarding the future, well, I'm here to tell you right now that no politician or government program is the answer to your problems. It's not. The answer, clearly, is Jesus. The answer is found in surrendering all your worries to Him and trusting Him to meet your needs. Put your trust in the Creator of all things, the God who loves you and wants to guide you through all the storms of this life and into the glory of life in Him. Beware the tricks of the enemy. Don't fall for that voice that uses fear to control you, then promises things that and never delivers. God is a God of perfect love, and that perfect love casts out all fear. Don't become a slave to a deceiving overlord, but rather put your faith in the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Study the Word of God and ask for His wisdom. Put on the whole armor of God and stand ready for battle, knowing that victory is already ours in Christ. I'm Stace Massengill, and I'm just saying. Until next time, God bless you.